Welcome back to AM Northwest. Our first guest this morning says a number of parents are producing a generation of overscheduled, overstimulated, and overstressed out kids. And here to share his findings in his latest book, Under Pressure, we welcome Carl Honore. Nice to have you here, sir.
Good to be here.
How do we define and identify an overstressed, overscheduled kid?
I think there's a checklist. I think when you look at children who are exhausted all the time, this is something you find around the world now, doctors and teachers identifying kids who are 10 who are actually suffering from a kind of burnout or exhaustion.
Wow.
If a child struggles to make use of time, you know, if he's got a bit of time in his schedule and he panics and thinks, what do I do? I'm bored, I'm at a loss. Children who are always turning to grown-ups to tell them what to do, to help them decide what to make of themselves.
You call that hyperparenting.
Yes, hyperparenting, I think, is a kind of, it's really good parenting run amok, you know, because it starts from a natural and noble place, which is the instinct to do the best for our children. But in the last generation, it's morphed into something extreme, where we're pushing, polishing, and protecting our kids with superhuman zeal. We want to give them the best of everything and the best at everything, and it's gone too far, and it becomes stifling and claustrophobic for kids.
It's our generation of parents who are doing this. Our parents didn't do it. What happened?
Well, I think there are various things. One, we've just got a culture of soaring expectations now. We expect everything to be perfect. You want perfect teeth, perfect home, perfect vacation, perfect child to round out the picture. Also, demographics have shifted. People are having children older, and I think that means that we come to parenting after many years in the workplace, and we bring that office ethos with us. So we think, how do we make something better? Like parenting? Well, we'll do what we do at work. We'll bring in the experts, we'll spend a lot of money, and we'll put in long, hard hours at it. You know? We professionalize parenting, and I think that's reflected in the way we feel. We always feel inadequate as parents now. We're always feeling, I'm not doing enough, I'm never doing enough. In fact, many of us are actually doing too much.
And is it I think personally for me, the fear is that one day when everything is added up, that you will have failed as a parent if your kid doesn't achieve some sort of great success. And so you're doing everything you can, and that's selfish on the parents' part, isn't it?
It is, and I think we've wound ourselves up into this frenzy where we feel there are only two possible outcomes for kids now. On one hand, you've got a child who's in Mensa at 9, he's a Rhodes Scholar at 16, and he's on the front cover of Time magazine at 25. Or he's sleeping rough under a bridge. You know? And that's preposterous. There are so many different ways for children to grow up, so many different outcomes. And I think that it's stifling, and I think, thankfully, people are starting to realize that and back off.
What are some telltale signs that you're a hyper parent?
Well, I think if you're constantly worried, I think that's one. So if you're lying in bed at night plotting how to get more, Cub Scout badges for your kid, if you're constantly on the phone to the school, the teachers, you got parents now calling up university and college professors, helping to negotiate grades for their kids, or you've actually got parents turning up at job interviews now, helping to negotiate salary and vacation packages. So
no wonder the kids.
That's a sign you're going a little too far.
No wonder the kids are living in their mom's basement. They're not allowed to move out.
The umbilical cord never gets snipped.
Okay, so I think we all either see that in ourselves or we know somebody who's like that. So how do we solve that problem?
I think the first step is just we live in a hyper-scheduled society. We need to schedule, it's an irony, but we need to schedule unscheduled time. So I think every family needs to set aside an hour or two a day when the kids are not doing an organized, supervised, monitored activity, where they're just left to themselves and with the computer and the TV switched off, just to let them slide into that very childlike moment where maybe they get bored, but then they invent a game or they come up with something, because that's how children learn how to think creatively. It's how they learn how to take pleasure. It's how they learn who they are rather than what we want them to be.
You're going to have to ignore then the kids saying I'm bored, because once you take away the computer or the TV, that's what they're going to say.
Exactly, but boredom is a good thing, and boredom opens up a door to all kinds of the child looking in on himself and finding out who he is, inventing games, learning how to use time. This is a problem, I think, with this new generation coming through, is they've been so spoon-fed activity, everything's been guided and steered for them, that they don't know how to cope with time itself. So they're restless, they're bored, and I think that ultimately backfires on them and as people, but also people in the workplace. I mean, it's taking a toll in the labor market as well, I think.
Is this a phenomenon that is universal around the world, or are there other countries that aren't overscheduling their kids?
Well, it's a funny thing. When I started the research for my book, I just assumed that this was something that you had in North America. But actually, this is everywhere. That even in Scandinavia, we think of the Scandinavians as being gloriously laid back.
Right.
They've got everything in balance, tall, blonde, beautiful, blue eyes. But they've caught this virus of hyperparenting too. They call it curling parenting, the sport curling, because mom and dad are frantically sweeping the ice in front of the stone to create this perfect path into adulthood. So wherever you go in the world now, you find parents, teachers, anyone who has anything to do with children asking this question, is this what we wanted for our kids? Is this what we wanted for ourselves? And increasingly the answer is no, and that's why people are looking for ways to back off, give children the time and space they need to grow up, to develop
Sure.
properly, and to become, fully formed adults.
So often it seems like parents and their kids are having dinner in the car on their way to the next event or next activity. So that's why you say it's so important for people to make dinner, have dinner with their kids at home, and that's the time that you spend together as well.
Hugely. And it's often simple things, and I think we just lose sight of the fact that a life lived without a schedule is actually wonderfully rich. And it's sometimes the simple things like just hanging out in the kitchen in companionable silence.
Yeah.
Right.
You don't have to jump in and turn everything into a teaching moment or package every moment so that it looks good on a resume. Just the simple stuff.
It's my dream to have silence in the home. We'll see what happens. We want everyone to know, by the way, you've got a talk coming up, Under Pressure, tonight at 7 p.m. The Waldorf School.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. I'm sorry. All right, let's make sure people don't get there too early. It is tomorrow, 7 o'clock, Waldorf School in Milwaukee on Harrison Street. And thanks so much for coming in today. We got all the information, too, on our website, katu.com. We could talk all day, but I know you've got to get ready for tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks very much.